All right, guys, picking up where we left off with a little steak incident, not a wood steak, but a real steak. Okay, he said, this is it. I'm sorry I had to go this far, but if they'd listened, this wouldn't be necessary. He dragged the steak across the floor. He, meaning the cat, dragged the steak across the floor and laid it across the inert, meaning sleeping or not alive, bunny. Then, with his paw, he began to hit the steak. Are you sure this is what they mean, Chester? The dog asked. Am I anywhere near his heart, he asked. It's hard to tell, I said. All I can really see are his nose and his ears. You know, he really is sort of cute. Chester was getting that glint in his eyes again. He was pounding away at the steak, harder and harder and harder. Be careful, I cried. You'll hurt him. Chester increased his attack. I was really getting worried when the door opened and Mr. and Mrs. Monroe were suddenly with us in the room. Chester! Mrs. Monroe screamed. What are you doing with my dinner? Robert, get that steak away from Chester. And what's the matter with Bunnicula? Why is he on the floor? Mr. Monroe took the beautiful steak away. I wished it a fond farewell with tears in my eyes. As the kitchen door swung open, Chester whispered with cold determination, all right, the last resort. He dashed into the kitchen. Seconds later, he was back, carrying his water dish between his teeth. He ran towards Bunnicula and with a mad yowl threw the dish of water on the rabbit. Now remember, we said that vampires can be destroyed by water. Unfortunately, he was so hysterical that his aim was not the best. With the water dripping from my ears, I watched Mr. Monroe pick Chester up by the scruff of his neck and toss him unceremonially out the front door. Robert, we are going to have to do something about that cat. Look at this mess. Dinner's ruined, the poor bunny is out of his cage, and Harold is all sopping wet. I tried to look pathetic as I knew how. Oh, poor Harold, Mrs. Monroe cooed as she dried me off. You've had a rough day, you and Bunnicula. I don't know what's the matter with your friend, but unless he learns how to behave, he'll just have to spend the night outside. Mr. Monroe, meanwhile, had restored Bunnicula to his cage, and the cage to the windowsill. I couldn't believe it when I saw Bunnicula was still asleep, and Mr. Monroe said, the steak is ruined. Why don't we let Harold have it? He deserves a treat anyhow. Don't you, old boy? I panted appropriately. After my delicious dinner, I turned my attention to the book still lying open on the floor. Another method of destroying the vampire is to immerse the body in water. The body then will shrivel and disappear as the vampire emits one last scream of terror. Ah! Whew, I thought. So that's what he was trying to do. Thank goodness he missed. I had no regrets about missing a scene like that. Poor Bunnicula. I looked over towards the cage, and there, on the other side of the window, was a pathetic, tabby face looking in. His little nose was pressed against the window. I couldn't hear him, but from the movement of his lips, I could see he was very unhappy. Poor Chester. As for me, Mrs. Monroe spent the evening petting me, and the family chatted with me all night long. And, of course, I had my yummy steak dinner, so it wasn't such a bad day after all, except that now my steak was all gone. Poor Harold. That's where we'll stop. A New Friend in Need, as we're going to pick up Chapter 7 next time.